The future. Unbelievable. I gotta check this out, Doc.
All in good time, Marty. We're on a tight schedule here.
Tell me about my future. I mean, I know I make it big, but what, do I become like a rich rock star or something?
Please, Marty, nobody should know too much about their own destiny.
Right. I am rich, though, right?
Marty, please, take off your shirt.
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to episode 203.
203.
Of Modern Technology Watches.
Woohoo!
I am Rob Vincent.
I'm Gila Drazen.
And we are a couple of movie nerds who are married to one another and share our favorite films and films we love and films we like and films we just think the other should see back and forth in a bit of a cycle. Except today is a sequel, our first in Modern Technology Watches history.
Dun dun dun!
It is a sequel to episode 201 of Modern Technology Watches, in which we watched Back to the Future.
So why are we not calling this episode 2012?
201 Part 2? Because that's actually the full name of what we're watching today, is Back to the Future Part 2.
Ah. I mean, we could also make it 201 Roman numeral 2.
Well, it's 201 Part Roman numeral 2. It would have to be if we want to match Back to the Future. But because we like our listeners, and we don't want to drive them crazy thinking that they skipped ahead or are listening to things out of sequence, this is episode 203, the third episode of season 2. And we are going to be welcoming back our friends from the Dork Web, Gabe and Jen, who joined us for 201, who joined us for Back to the Future 1. They will be joining us for this movie.
They'll be joining us for this movie. And, you know, I don't think it's unfair to say that it's also going to be interesting, because back in the day when we recorded episode 201, Jen and Gabe were able to be here in our home studio.
Yes.
And now, due to the pandemic and the lockdown, we are going to have them here virtually with us. Mm-hmm.
So this is our first Modern Technology remote interview.
Correct.
So we're doing it that way. I am glad that you and I are still allowed to be in the same place.
I'm very glad that you and I are allowed to be in the same place.
Because we both live here, and it would be difficult.
Yes, I'm very glad that we're able to be in the same place, and are continuing to be in the same place.
And I'm also glad that you, our dear listeners, continue to invite us into your homes and other places.
Absolutely.
And induct us into your ear holes in various ways.
And, you know, it's a nice, safe, social distancing, safe way to hang out with your friends.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's catching up on their podcasting now.
Except me. I have kind of, I'm not caught up on any of my podcasts right now.
Well, you will catch up on the rest of this episode when we have the conversation.
Ah, yes. Well, this podcast I'm naturally caught up on.
Yeah. I mean, if you weren't, it would be strange.
It's very true.
I mean, you do seem to pay attention when we're making them.
Yeah. Well, more or less.
So, we are going to play you some music, and we are going to watch Back to the Future Part 2 from 1989. And when we come back, you will hear us, you will hear our friends from the Dork Web, and we will all discuss this trip to the future of 2015, the mysterious future of 5 years ago.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah, need it be said that I haven't seen this one? I mean, I didn't see the first one. I certainly haven't seen the second one.
Nope,
and spoiler alert for the next one, haven't seen number 3 either.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Based on the stuff that's just culturally out there about this movie, and the stuff that we have laying around the house.
Yes.
Like I've got a tiny hoverboard on a shelf and stuff over there. So, what do you know about Back to the Future 2?
Literally nothing. And I was thinking about it, as many set pieces of Back to the Future that exist, that I remember we were talking about it. There was enough stuff that was in the cultural zeitgeist that I knew about before I'd seen the movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the case for 2. Mm-hmm. I know there's a hoverboard.
Yes.
That's about all I got. I don't think you ever cosplayed it as an obscure character from Back to the Future Part 2.
Not yet, but there's still time. I'm reasonably young. For certain definitions of young.
You got it.
Yeah, you saw the end of the first one, and you remember that.
Yes.
And
where we're going, we don't need roads.
Correct. And so we will go from there and see where Back to the Future went from there.
Indeed.
Since we do not have a DVD case for you to read the back of because they're in a box set.
Correct.
Once again, I've done what I did for Back to the Future the first, which was I found a scan of the VHS case from back in the day. And so have a read of this.
Okay.
And let's see what you think.
Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd reprised their roles as Marty McFly and Doc Brown in this dazzling new adventure from executive producer Steven Spielberg and director Robert Zemeckis. Okay, again, sorry, the last time something said dazzling adventure from executive producer Steven Spielberg, it was The Goonies. A little, okay. An exhilarating visit by Marty and the Doc to the year 2015 seemingly resolves a few problems with the future McFly family. But when the two return home, they soon discover someone has tampered with time to produce a nightmarish Hill Valley 1985. Their only hope is to once again get back to 1955 and save the future. It's a fast-paced comic fantasy that Time magazine calls rich in invention and astonishment.
Excellent. And thank you, VHScollector.com, for having a scan of this, which is, it looks like a UK pressing of the VHS. And so based on that, and you got the cover art here, and so how you feeling about this?
I love you, and I trust you, and yikes.
Okay.
All right.
This is exciting.
Here we go.
Here we go. Back to the Future, part 2. Again. Still.
Some more.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Did we make it? Are we back?
I think we're back.
We are back with episode 203.
203 because you wouldn't let me call it 201 part 2.
Exactly. But this is this is the second part of the episode, so we're doing 201 part 2 now, or
Yeah.
okay, because we recorded an intro as we did, but when we recorded that intro to Back to the Future part 2, we did not have our friends from the Dork Web with us. Jen and Gabe, hello.
Hello.
Guess who's back?
Oh my god.
Back again. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
How are you guys?
We are well. It's been a long and crazy ride, but we watched Back to the Future 2, and we are now back here with you to talk about it. Now, you guys, I'm guessing, did not see this in the movies when it came out in 1989.
Nope. I did not
think so. I would have been 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn kids. Get off my lawn. So how did we talked a little bit last episode that you were with us about how you got into Back to the Future. Was it just a matter for you guys of we saw the first one, let's check out the second one, or?
When I was a kid, I remember when we talked about the first movie how you said there was that 4-year gap, and I don't have a clear memory of having to wait. And I feel like if I was a kid and I was really waiting for something, it's it seems like an eternity. Yeah, I think we watched them back to back. And maybe I just don't remember watching the first one the first time, so it just was seamless to me, and I was spoiled in that way.
I think my introduction, as I remember it, was actually through this Micro Machines set. It had the Texaco gas station.
Yes.
It came with the police car, the taxi cab, and I believe the DeLorean. And that's my first memory of Back to the Future, too. I honestly can't tell you the first time I actually saw it.
It was fun because we watched it, and he was pointing out, I had that.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
I had that Micro
Machine. I was like, oh my gosh, Micro Machine.
And I thought it was a secret way of being like, I actually am a huge fan.
Yeah, I didn't even like Micro Machines, but I wanted that set.
Yeah. I still got it if you want it.
Yeah, and I thought he was having some sort of, confession of, being a bigger fan, but really... He was like, I was like, why did you have these? You do love Back to the Future as much as I... And he's like, no, I just really love Micro Machines.
Yeah, the cars, that just look so cool,
So it's the Micro Machines that got you into the movie.
Yeah, pretty much, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's a good thing you didn't get like the Barbie branded Micro Machines or something.
I would guess that Gabe would have something like that.
I always wanted one of those cars that you could get into. I think they're like little Barbie Jeeps, and you could drive them around as kids. That was
Yes.
so
The
Power
cool
Wheels?
to me. Oh, yeah, they were so
They
cool.
had a Back
Oh
to the
my
Future
God.
DeLorean one.
Didn't they really?
I remember
No way.
I remember seeing it in the store, and by this time, 1989, I was like 11 or 12, and was definitely too big for those things. But I remember looking on it in the toy store and going, "Oh, if only," you know.
Oh man, I remember my dad saying that he did finally get me one, and I definitely was more of a tomboy, but I wanted that, you know, pedal convertible. You have a car and you're a kid.
Yeah.
And he said, go to the garage. And I went to the garage and I got into the pink car and I'm looking for a pedal. And it turns out it's the one that's like a bicycle pedal.
Oh, no.
And like, it's like a little trike, but it has the housing of a cheap, thin plastic Barbie car.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, oh, thanks, Dad.
Oh, you wanted like a
That's
motorized
nice.
one.
Oh yeah. You know, all
Ah.
the digital techie stuff is what the kids want. But no, of course, it was very sweet. Now thinking back on it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I, for one, like I mentioned last time, I saw Back to the Future in the theater multiple times. I saw Back to the Future 2 in the theater when it was out, and saw Back to the Future 3 in the theater, but we're not there yet. And it was a huge wait, because Back to the Future came out in 85. I was 7 going on 8. Yeah, that's about right.
So hard to wait.
So if you picture you're an 8-year-old and you love this thing, and it's supposed to have a second part coming, and by the time it does, you're 12. You know, that's forever in kid years. There was a special event, and they actually have this clip on the Blu-ray set that I got, which excited me to no end because I hadn't seen this in years. But they had this special showing on, I think, ABC, where they showed the original Back to the Future movie. Leslie Nielsen came out in the DeLorean and was the host of this television event.
Oh my
and-
gosh.
And he's out there in a tux, like, driving up in the DeLorean, and there are all these, like, people, and it looks like a theater that people are getting into. And he's like, tonight, we're having a special showing of Back to the Future. And then, after the movie, they showed the featurettes and stuff about Back to the Future 2, and a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff, and all that stuff's on the DVD, and a lot of that stuff got put in, like, the other behind-the-scenes Back to the Future stuff that they've released on video over the years. But this was Leslie Nielsen going like, I'm not in the movie, I had nothing to do with making it, but I'm here just because I love time travel. And so
awesome.
they went behind the scenes of part 2 with the prosthetic makeup and all this stuff, and this is how cool it's going to be, and this movie's coming out soon, go see it. And it was this cool event, and I had that on tape. So like I couldn't watch Back to the Future 2 on tape yet, but I would go
Nice.
back and watch that featurette, grainy, taped off of analog television.
Cool.
So yeah, I was into it, and I was impressed. Now, Gila.
And is it our understanding that Gila is 0 for 3, I should say, before we started this journey?
That is 100% correct.
Wow.
I realized in thinking about it that for the most part I have avoided trilogies. I think the only trilogies I could say I've really seen are Austin Powers and The
An
Naked
excellent
Gun.
trilogy to see. Also an excellent trilogy to see.
No question. But were they necessarily formed with the narrative arc of this is going to be a trilogy? Probably not. So the difference between The Naked Gun and Back to the Future or the Godfather movies or the Lord of the Rings or anything else that was intended as a narrative trilogy. So this is a whole new. Oh, and Star Wars. I haven't seen any of those either. So this is a whole new set of yeah.
Season 3?
This is a whole new set of experiences for me. And oh guys.
So
This is
now
a safe space, Gila.
yes. Now's the moment of truth. You're outnumbered by 3 to 1. Tell us what you thought of Back to the Future Part 2.
Well, I did keep asking Rob if there was a moment in Back to the Future 3 where Marty comes back again to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. So there's Marty and Marty and Marty.
No spoilers about 3. We have not. But,
Oh my god. Wow. Okay, so let me preface all of this, and I can't remember if we discussed this on the first one or not, that as a child, I was in love with Michael J. Fox. Not so much with Michael J. Fox as with Alex P. Keaton, but I didn't really understand the difference at the time.
Yeah.
And, like, wow, he should maybe not be trying to play multiple characters in the same movie. Maybe. And, just putting that out there. Oh my god, you guys. This movie.
I believe you're referencing the old Marty. 85 Marty.
Old Marty nailed it.
Young kid Marty.
Yeah.
Old Marty, 85 Marty.
Marty Jr.
Marty Jr., and lest we forget,
Marty Jr.
Marlene. Now,
I did see that, yeah.
first of all, let us discuss the fact that Jennifer was just like, okay, I'm gonna let you George Foreman this shit and name both of our children after you.
Yeah.
I got feelings, you guys.
One thing you were saying during the movie and after it was that it got so grim, and you weren't expecting that.
I
from
was not.
The sequel to the family adventure comedy.
It got very dark.
The Madcap Family Adventure.
I almost wonder, did it seem grimmer? Because as I watched this again in the current times, I was thinking, wow, this is like, did this happen to us? Are we living the middle of the movie right now?
Definitely, we're in an alternate timeline right now. And also,
I mean, it didn't help that he looks like Trump too, Biff from alternate 85.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is a political podcast or not, so you can strike this from the record if you want to. But holy shit, this is what's happening to us.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say also because, like, when Trump got elected, a lot of people were pulling out the pictures of Evil Biff from this movie going, holy crap, did this just come through? Did this just come true? You know?
But, I mean, also looking at it now,
Wow.
you're like, okay, we all lived through 2015. Okay, things I did not have in 2015. I did not have a hoverboard in 2015.
Oh, you didn't have one of those?
I know. I was very depressed.
Poor kid.
Okay, also, just quickly, Cafe 80s. At least when I was in college, there was at least one establishment in the San Fernando Valley called Cafe 50s. And it was
nice,
like exactly that kind of nostalgia place.
Yeah,
you didn't order from Ronald Reagan in a TV, but everything else, and also like they had board games, so it was great. You know, go have a milkshake, play Uno.
That sounds really cool. Yeah,
yeah, and they were open all night, so we would, college. But
that's so funny. Because I would think about people looking back at movies like The Wedding Singer and thinking that it was all serious. And this was actually made in that time, and not understanding the joke that it's actually like a decade plus behind or in the future. So, like, yeah, now we look back at the Cafe 80s, and anybody that watches Back to the Future 2 now would just be like, yeah, I don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Looks great to me.
I mean, I was tying my own shoes in 2015.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there was... Nike actually, when Back to the Future Day happened, which is October 21st, 2015, which is the day they go to when they go to the future in this movie. And when that happened in real life, everyone was calling it Back to the Future Day. And a bunch of stuff happened. Like, Nike actually released a replica of those shoes, though it doesn't power lace.
Nice.
Pepsi released those funky Pepsi bottles that they have in the Cafe 80s.
Pepsi Perfect?
Yeah, the Pepsi Perfect.
It's cool.
Which you can't see it in the movie, but I think in the production artwork and stuff, they posit that it's called Pepsi Perfect because it's like vitamin enhanced. Yeah, and they also, like USA Today, actually released a wraparound for that day's newspaper that was a replica of the one from this movie, where Martin McFly Jr. is arrested, and it's got all these other news stories around it that are like made up. and I have a copy. My friend Jordan got a copy for me. One of the stories on the original prop, which they made in 1989, referenced Queen Diana about to visit the United States.
Oh wow!
So when they made the real version, they changed that to something different because no one expected A, that Diana would not be queen or alive, and B, that Elizabeth would still be queen and alive.
Oh jeez, yeah.
There was a lot of fun stuff going on around the real October 21st, 2015. There's a little featurette on this Blu-ray disc set, which is called Doc Brown Saves the World, which I'll maybe show you later. And it's like this goofy little fan service thing that explains why real 2015 doesn't have all the future tech from imaginary 2015.
One thing that occurred to me, though, and I apologize because I know I'm keeping us from getting to the plot, but, well,
not at all. Welcome.
But,
shots fired.
There's the gong.
but, I do think
we can't see finger quotes, though, on a podcast.
One thing I thought was very interesting, was that when Marty, at the very beginning of the movie, they're in the DeLorean, and Marty says, "We're going to 2015? We're going to 2015?" And Doc was like, "Yeah, we're going to 2015. And, like, when was the moment at the beginning of this century when we all decided to stop saying 2000 and whatever and start saying 20 whatever?
I'll tell you. It was 2010.
Okay.
As soon as we moved off of single-digit modifiers, I think because it was the year 2000, and then it was 2001 and 2002 and so forth. But by the time 2010 came around, it was, I think people had gotten it in their head that we're not going to keep saying 2011, 2012. It's now, beginning of the
I still don't
beginning
know
of the four
what
digits,
to
end of the four digits.
Okay, so you have the 80s, you have the 90s. What do the double zeros, the O's,
2000s.
the 2000s? I don't like when I see the Spotify playlists or like, hey, take me back to the it's like, take me back to the what?
The
like,
James Bond era.
The double O's.
Yeah. There was a lot of people were saying the aughts or the aughties. Because that was
never heard that.
Because that was a 1900s thing when in the early part of the 20th century, people would refer to, this happened in '06.
Right, like in The Music Man.
The Music Man?
Gary Conservatory of Music, gold medal class of '05.
Yes, and Gary, Indiana wasn't built till '06. Yeah.
Sorry, Music Man spoilers. Apologies.
Yes. But I also remember seeing people start calling it the naughties, as in NOUGHT for naught for zero.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't think that ever caught on as much.
Oh my gosh.
That seems like a bit of a reach
Imagine
to me.
why.
I don't like that.
Can't imagine
I don't like
why.
that at all.
Yeah. So this picture got a little grim, and I told Gila, like, it's part 2 of a trilogy. That happens. Those are generally grim.
True, yeah.
But like the interesting thing about this trilogy is that this, like, it was not planned as a trilogy from the start.
Right.
I think I mentioned on the part 1 episode that they made Back to the Future, and that was meant to be it. And the bit at the end where the car flies off was just a little, like, off into the sunset to new adventures. And it was only later, after it made all the money in the world, that they decided, we're going to do this again, and they added to be continued on videos and TV showings. So
Yes.
they made
which I am curious to hear about what you have to say about the to be concluded and them deciding it would be a trilogy.
Well, at this point, they totally knew it was going to be. They were going to do 2 and 3, and they wrote them back to back and as a unit, and put references to each other in them, and then they filmed them back to back, right after the other. And it was when
Gabe was eating up those Western references.
And
we actually watched Tombstone afterwards.
Yeah,
excellent.
We had to.
There's the silence. Gotta watch a Western. Sorry, go on.
One of the things is that, like, when Back to the Future 2 premiered, they had enough footage already from filming Back to the Future 3 that they were able to put together that little preview that rolled at the end of the movie, but before the credits. And you saw a couple of quick scenes of the Old West, and coming summer 1990.
Oh, I thought that was part of the DVD. I didn't realize that was aired as it was in the theater.
Yeah, To Be Concluded happened in the theater this time. As opposed to being added after. And then that little short teaser also aired right then before the credits to assure the audience that, there's more coming, and it's coming next year.
Okay, so did you lose your mind in the theater when they showed that part?
I already heard somewhere that they were going to do Cowboys and Indians for the third one. I got spoiled at some point. Maybe some damn kid in school or something. But I was still very, very excited. So, should we proceed to maybe a Wikipedia-ly direction?
Lead the way.
And,
A Wikipedia-esque direction.
We can go check out the cast really quick. I think most of these people we've said things about them in the previous
Gabe's
one.
been waiting for the cast. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there are 8 people listed here.
Yeah, there are only 8 people listed on the Wikipedia article for Back to the Future Part 2.
Well, there's only one that you need know about, but we'll
Yeah.
get there.
Let's start at the bottom. Flea as Douglas J. Needles.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Oh, I saw that in the credit, and I was like, who was Flea? And
Oh,
Jen
Honey
said,
Child.
it was Needles. I'm like, yes, that's why he looks so familiar. I was like, I cannot place who this guy is.
I just remember during that part, he's like, Needles? Who's Needles?
But you guys know who Flea is, or did you know who Flea
Oh,
was
yeah.
when you saw this? Okay.
Yeah,
So we
Flea,
see
the
him
bass
on
player
the
from Red Hot
screen.
Chili
We're not
Peppers.
that yet, yeah.
We see him on the screen, and I sit up and I'm like, "Is that Flea?"
yeah.
And Rob was like, "Yeah," and I said, "Okay." I mean, it's not a great discussion. I'm sorry,
And
but
back then it came out of nowhere too. And yeah, Flea.
Oh, it did.
But back then it was awesome. It was like, oh my god, it's Flea. But also like he was great in that character. And Flea actually did a couple of movies. There was a movie called The Chase. I don't know when it came out, but it was a Charlie Sheen vehicle.
Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson.
Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson, like driving a getaway car for the whole movie.
1993.
And they're pursued by all these other people, including Henry Rollins as a cop. And there's another
Nice.
car that's Anthony Kiedis and Flea driving after them and being punky and weird. It was the 90s were a strange decade.
The 90s were a special time.
Yeah, but
It sounds like the Warriors equivalent. or so like, yeah, like a car chase movie or something.
yeah, it pretty much was. Like the whole thing was just a long car chase. And I remember liking it back then. Maybe I'll revisit it sometime. Well, let's go up to... You guys all know who played George McFly in Back to the Future. Jeffrey Weissman.
Wait, what?
Jeffrey Weissman as George McFly.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Georgie,
because...
the dad.
the upside down?
The Upside Down
yeah.
Dad. Because George McFly was played in the first movie by Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover. Creepy Crispin Glover.
Yes.
I
And
thought
in
I
this
saw
movie,
his name in the credits, no?
you did. He's credited as George McFly in footage from Back to the Future because he decided not to do this movie. He decided they weren't paying him enough, and so on and so on. And so like he just noped out of it. And because they like nowadays when they know they're making a trilogy, like they get everyone's contracted to sequels should they happen. You know, all those cats and Avengers like had basically contracts, going on into the next decade. But the thing about this movie was like nobody knew when they were making Back to the Future that they would be making sequels, so they had to get everyone back and they had to make it worth their while, and they couldn't make it worth Crispin Glover's while. So what they did, and it was shady as hell, was they reused footage from the first movie. With George in it, and like alternate takes and angles that they had lying around and stuff, and that's all well and good. They owned the footage, but then because they had a casting of Crispin Glover's face that they used to make the prosthetic makeup in the first movie, they used that casting to make a Crispin Glover mask for Jeffrey Weissman, who had in the past worked as Crispin Glover's stand-in. And Jeffrey Weissman,
so shady.
Yeah,
right?
he's come out on the net, and like he did a Reddit AMA a few years ago, and like to give his side of the story because like he was basically friendly with Crispin Glover. He worked as a stand-in, and but then they invited him back. He was led to believe he was going to be a stand-in again, and they're like, no, you're playing George, and have this Crispin Glover mask. And so he played 2015 George McFly hanging upside down, and he played 1955 George McFly from like far away and from the back.
They kind of like Bruce Lee'd it.
Is that in the school parking lot?
Yeah, in the school parking lot when he's punching Biff.
So then the voice coming out of the upside down future, George McFly, is...
That's Jeffrey Weissman.
Really?
Yeah. Because he'd also worked as an impressionist. He used to be one of those guys who went around Universal Studios dressed as like Chaplin, like Stan Laurel, and like other movie stars, like in character, and he'd be going around and improving. And so like he's worked as like a character actor and stuff. So he could do a George McFly voice, you know, kind of as much as they needed to for this movie. But Crispin Glover, of course, was not happy about this, because he's like, that's my likeness, you don't own my likeness, I didn't give you permission for any of this, and ended up suing. And what that did was that was a landmark case that got new Screen Actors Guild rules passed, where they can't do that to people anymore.
Huh.
So now you have to get people's likeness rights and things to do something like this. And it's because of Crispin Glover. Although he and Zemeckis eventually like reconciled, because he voiced Grendel in the Beowulf CGI monstrosity that he made. I want to say like around 2000-ish.
Yeah, definitely when I was in college.
Oh, is that the Angelina Jolie something
Yeah,
weird?
Angelina
random...
Jolie plays his mother. Yeah. So that was why Jeffrey Weissman was George McFly this time around.
Huh.
Yeah.
So actually, Crispin Glover is a, advocate. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So there it is. The next one up, James Tolkien is Mr. Strickland. Once again.
Okay.
With a
Still doesn't have
shotgun.
hair. Yeah, with the shotgun, which was great.
Yeah.
And the
And
bullet
long
necklace.
pajamas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bandolier.
Yes.
Yeah, I know there's... Yeah, thank you, the bandolier, because I was like, bullet lay, bullet necklace, bullet ruff. I knew there was like an actual word for it.
Yeah, it's only in Shakespearean
sash.
times it was a bullet ruff.
I would love to know what country I land in and they lay me with
Bullets.
bullets.
I think that was a Grindhouse picture, Lay Me with Bullets. But
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It was all. Never mind.
Good night, everybody. Anyway, but James Tolkien, I was endlessly amused by "Eat lead, slackers."
Yeah.
And then later, when they show him in the 50s, and he's like in his office drinking booze out of his coffee cup, like you assume every principal does.
Well, was he the principal then, or was he just the director of discipline?
It says discipline
Oh,
on the sign
yeah.
on his door. I don't think they ever really like say whether he's the principal or the truancy officer or what, but like he's some kind of authority figure.
Well, no, definitely. But like, my high school had an assistant principal.
But
who
yes,
was in
thank you,
charge of
Gila,
discipline.
because that sign. Yes, the sign that said, I was like, it says discipline?
Well, it was the 50s. It was probably more of a normal thing. James Tolkien still looks that way.
Strickland's Dungeon of Terror.
Strickland's Dungeon of Terror. That was a different Grindhouse picture.
Hey.
Hey.
Yo.
He had that kind of like, don't wake daddy long
Yeah.
sleeper
Right.
Yeah.
thing that goes down to his ankle.
The big PJs. I think it's a timeless classic.
Oh yes. All he needed was the
Oh
hat.
my gosh, and the shotgun pointed at his
Yeah.
balls, basically. Oh.
Yeah. So, moving up to, you know who played Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future? It was Elizabeth Shue.
Right. Yes. Yes. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Claudia Wells, the I think brown-haired actress from the Ferris movie who played Jennifer Parker, was replaced by Elizabeth Shue in like a really ratty-looking blonde wig, and it was kind of fantabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the first thing I said. I was like, wait a second.
It's like this
Yeah.
shoulder-width wig.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So the movie starts, and I'm like, that's a different person. Quick story time. So my junior year of college, one of my professors gave us an extra week off before spring break. And this professor had recently lost a parent. We thought she was going to go be with her mom. Fine. Great. Grand. So we don't see her for like 3 weeks. We come back after spring break. And she is maybe she was with her mom, but she also definitely had some work done. So we're like, oh, okay, she's got a completely different face and new lips. Okay. So we're all like sitting there just staring. And by the end of class, I had convinced myself that I had remembered her face wrong, and she had always looked like that. So that was of my initial reaction when I saw Elizabeth Shue as Jennifer, was I had just been remembering wrong.
I think, I was impressed because Gabe was the one who was like, is that a different actress? And I had not realized before. I haven't watched the second one nearly, like, even 5% as much as I have the first one. And it was one of those, I mean, Gabe, you do it better, but like,
yeah,
yeah, like, squeaky, squeaky, checking my lenses.
Yeah.
And absolutely not. And it's funny because I picture 2015 Jennifer, and I know her face very well because she has that big moment. But young Jennifer, I remember when we rewatched the first one, I thought, wow, she's like this Instagram Tumblr girl, like really like would be such a hit right now. You know, the thick eyebrows and the you guys said central casting, kind of just like beautiful teen girl. And yeah, to see her, and then I've been getting really into wigs lately, so like I'm getting my first lace front and watching a lot of tutorials and things, and I looked right at her hairline and I'm like, whoa, like girl, that shit is not glued down right, like little off. I'm like, wait, that is not the same girl. And she wasn't just like that soft, doe-eyed, you know, thing from the first one. And I was like, bravo. Yeah, you called it, Gabe.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, Jennifer actually kind of has a little acting to do in this one. She was mostly set dressing, I think, in the first one.
Yeah.
And, but like, the story, like, because they had gone off into the sunset and brought Jennifer with them in the first one, then they had to write their way out of that. And they're like, they obviously still wanted to make a Marty and Doc movie, so they're like, yeah, let's knock her out and just put her off to the side for a bit, literally.
Yeah.
He had such a problem with that, too.
Just like, why? What was the point? Like, why not just leave her in the car? What's the why?
Yeah, he could have left her in the car.
And then they do it again! Like, guys!
The thing I thought was really interesting, though, is if you look, to me it was really interesting, is that Elizabeth Shue doesn't look terribly dissimilar to Leah Thompson in the way that the chick who played Jennifer in the first movie does.
Claudia Wells, yeah.
Thank you. And I was like, that just adds a whole new level of weird.
Oh no, is this about to get Oedipal?
More Oedipal moments in Back to the Future. That's what we need.
Yeah, well, you know. But no, seriously, to think that... Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing that was striking me. Is
I had not thought of that. You're right. She totally has a similar look to Leah Thompson.
Right? Guys, I'm not saying it's not squicky, but, like, you know, this isn't my childhood on the line, so, like, whatever, you know?
Yeah. So that's... And Elizabeth Shue would later, I think she wasn't, I don't know what she was in before this, but she later became well known with stuff like, what was the one with Nicolas Cage?
Leaving Las Vegas, where she was nominated for an Oscar. You don't know what she was in before this?
What was she in before this?
Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, man, I love that movie. And I forgot it was before this. Yes,
that was
of course it was.
1987.
Don't fuck with the babysitter, yeah.
I mean, among other things.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth Shue. Thomas F. Wilson as Biff Tannen and Griff Tannen.
And Biff Tannen and Biff Tannen and Biff Tannen.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's 4 iterations of Biff.
Yeah, he's another one. He had 4 selves in this movie.
Well, okay, fabulous. So we have 1955 Biff, 1985 Biff. Well, 2 1985 Biffs.
Yeah, good 1985 Biff and evil 1985 Biff.
And 2015 Biff.
And 2015 Biff.
And Griff.
And Griff.
So 4 iterations of Biff.
Oh my gosh, Griff.
And also he was the voice of Biff's grandma shouting from the house, "I want you to rub my toes some more."
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So he was Biff, 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 Griff, and Gertrude.
Gertrude.
Was it? We're just assuming she's Gertrude, I think.
No, it said it on a sign.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Is she a GIF? then? Or are we going to do the
GIF.
GIF debate again?
Oh my gosh.
Gila and Gabe, is that what we're about to do?
No.
No, so when he played Drift Tannen, and you know it is a trope, and they go fully into it in this movie with, you know, the same actors playing their own ancestors and descendants, and slight spoiler, that does continue in the third. But I love Tom Wilson as Biff. I think he's a great bully. I sung his praises in our episode 201. But I like how he's the cranky, grumpy old version of Biff, and I also think he adds the right little future cybernetic psychosis to Griff. I think he does really well with what he's got.
I would tend to agree. I can't imagine the logistics of shooting that scene. Because you've got Griff and Biff and Marty Jr. and just Tannins and McFlys just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And all hell broke loose.
Pretty much, yeah.
That sounds like we're describing wine now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yes, notes of old, cranky Biff.
It's a very tannic, yeah.
Yeah, gotta shoo the flies away.
You gotta shoo the flies away, yeah.
So, Leah Thompson as Lorraine Baines McFly.
I am going to say I'm a bit surprised that her breastplate in the alternate 1985 doesn't get its own screen credit.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Oedipal, man. Whew.
Yeah, we
The eye line
could've...
on that scene,
Right?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, they deliberately wrote these scenes, and it was a callback when he wakes up, and is the "Mom, is that you?" scene from the first one. Okay, Michael J. Fox, your motivation here is your mom has ginormous boobs, and go. He's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I will say that now that I've, gotten to know more about drag, I understand the logistics of how that worked a bit more than I might have before.
Years of Drag Race education.
Exactly.
That's
RuPaul
awesome.
saving the children again.
Well, I think this was also after Leah Thompson had done the movie Casual Sex ?
Oh.
Yes, it was an 80s movie, which is about what it says on the tin.
Wasn't Jim Belushi in that?
I think so. I think he was in every 80s movie in some capacity.
Probably.
This is so funny. I don't know, the dark side of Leah Thompson. I'm a very Caroline in the City, pre-Sex in the City kind of wholesome.
I have 3 words for you.
Yeah.
I bet I know what those 3 words are.
Howard the Duck.
Yes! That's the one. Okay, that's the one I didn't write down, and I knew you were she's sci-fi punky. I'm like, ooh, I need to see that.
I would hand you the DVD right now were you not in your own home studio in lockdown.
That's right, Rob and Gila. This is a bit of a different setup going on today.
Yeah, it's like we went back to the future or something.
We are both, just to go into the tech specs here, we are conversing via Zoom. And we are each recording audio on our own computers, and later we will take that audio and throw it in a jar and put the lid on and shake it up and down and see if an episode comes out. But this is new,
and we have fingers and heels crossed that our audio is as to par on this one.
We are excited to see how this works. Keeping fingers crossed, eyes crossed, whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes crossed.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Oh.
All right, so Christopher Lloyd as Emmett Brown.
Yep.
Back to the Future was a very much Marty McFly movie, and this is more of the double act of Marty and Doc. Mm-hmm. I think Christopher Lloyd does well, kind of elevated to more of a lead rather than the supporting nutcase.
I like...
Do you know, was there a call for more Christopher Lloyd? After the first...
I can't see why there wouldn't be, because he's awesome. But,
we may be asking someone who's a little biased. Yeah.
I mean, I love Christopher Lloyd. I am a fan of his, but also he was doing a lot of stuff in the 80s. Back to the Future, I think maybe lit a little fire in his career, but he was already doing bit parts and everything, stuff all over TV.
And don't forget Taxi.
Taxi he had done before Back to the Future, and so he was a known quantity.
Yeah.
When was Addams Family? Was that 91?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be after all the Back to the Futures. But
I think there's also a lot to be said.
Buster,
There are actor-director partnerships you look at that just do good things. And I think Christopher Lloyd and Robert Zemeckis is one of those.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Absolutely, yeah.
So that, this was
Terrifying, but
Yeah.
yes.
no question. But like that this was after that. So they had refined that relationship again. And then they went into doing this. And I think the advantage there was that, like, also Christopher Lloyd got to be a good guy again in this. Because, oh my god.
After traumatizing the
An
kids
entire
of the world
generation of
as Judge
children,
Doom with
as
the red
Judge Doom.
eyes.
And the squeaky voice
Yeah.
and the dip and the, I'm spiraling. I know,
Oh,
I know.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
You know who's not on the cast list?
Who's not on the cast list?
Charles Fleischer.
Charles Fleischer, yes. Charles Fleischer was, he played, in the 50s, as, like, with his regular face, he played Terry, the mechanic, who fixed Biff's car and was arguing with him over the price. And he ended up giving him a bunch of cans of motor oil as a consolation after charging $300 to clean all the manure from the first movie out of his car. But you saw him before that in the future, where he's an older version of that character, bald, asking people to thumb $100 and save the clock tower. That's him,
him.
and he was like
Okay.
very obvious plastic face. But the thing about Charles Fleischer and the reason he was there, he was Roger Rabbit. He was the voice of Roger Rabbit, and also Benny the Cab.
Cool.
And a zillion cartoon voices. And so he knew Zemeckis.
And Jen's no longer with us because her heart just exploded.
Yes.
So I said, Charles Fleischer. You know why I didn't recognize him? No bow tie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Fair.
But Roger Rabbit also had a cameo in this movie in the antique store in the future, where they're showing all the vintage 80s stuff in the window. There's a Roger Rabbit doll among all the other stuff.
I did, yeah. I did catch that. With the little, I remember the
little
floof orange
yeah.
hair, and I definitely had some sort of doll when I was a kid.
Troll doll?
The-
My brother had a
No.
Roger
It
Rabbit
was
doll and it had
Roger.
like posable ears with wire in them.
yes, I remember those.
So you could like,
Cool.
yeah.
That's so great.
So that's how Charles Fleischer pops up in this.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite doll cameo.
Yeah. And Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly / Marty McFly Jr.
so
/ Marlene McFly. And I think out of everyone, like when Mad Magazine did a spoof of Back to the Future 2, one of the gags they had was a couple other characters in the background going, maybe this is proof that you can really manipulate time. Because look at Michael J. Fox. He still looks like a teenager, and he must be like 50. And I mean, yeah, he doesn't look 4 years older than in the first movie in this.
No, and I think also that's like just a really mean thing that you had to wait 4 years for the second movie, and it started at the same instant.
Yeah.
Like that's just cruel.
So yeah, Michael J.
Oh,
Fox.
man.
The funny thing was, like, in the first movie, I think, because Family Ties, I think, had wrapped up by this point when they were filming, and so
Our condolences, Gila.
in the first movie,
Yeah.
one of the facts of production was that he was working full days on Back to the Future after working full days on Family Ties, and so like. When Marty is like
That's
just
right.
looking around befuddled at stuff and like what and like everything's just befuddling him, like I think part of that is maybe physical exhaustion on the part of the actor.
Okay.
And so this might be his first time acting as Marty McFly, like just entirely deliberately.
Oh, yeah.
I really wonder. There was some magic in that first one with
Yes.
the delirium.
You made a time machine out of a delirium?
I think he looked cute in drag. Future drag.
I think he looked cute in future drag. The voices of his children made me want to get all Max right on the bit.
Explain getting all Max right.
Are we saying that Marty was his daughter as well?
Yes.
Yep.
No.
Yeah,
I
Marlene
did not-
McFly was Michael
Yes.
J. Fox in drag.
I did
Yes.
not catch that.
I didn't either.
Dude.
Oh,
Guys.
with the weird, like, Mom, is that you?
I just thought
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
she just had
With
an
the head shake.
unfortunate face.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mind
Yeah.
blown.
I think you guys, one of you needs to, like, if you have a spare device around, pull up a picture of Marlene McFly and just blow your minds a little.
we're doing it
But-
right now.
But
Wow.
So, okay, the Max Wright thing
Yes.
was on
Oh
Friends when
my
he
gosh. I'm so sorry.
you heard it here first, listeners.
Wow, that's incredible. That's impressively
They're really not too bad.
not bad.
right, looked cute.
All things.
Because apparently Michael J. Fox's way of differentiating himself from his children, the children of his characters, was just to do weird shit with his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marlene McFly sounded like a Terminal Valley girl. Mm-hmm. And Marty McFly apparently was going through puberty at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was supposed to be the complete wimp.
Yeah.
And then the father was just like,
You call me a chicken.
That was another fascinating thing about when Real 2015 came around, is that seeing all the prosthetic makeup they put on the actors to make them 30 years older, and then seeing what they really looked like when they were 30 years older.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like,
Nailed it.
I think they all managed to age a lot better than this movie gave them credit for.
I mean, especially
did.
Crispin Glover. I mean, you know, he turned into a totally different person, and he has not done that.
But like
although
even
that
Michael
scene
J.
where,
Oh my gosh.
do you have thoughts on when Christopher Lloyd first takes off that treatment mask? Or
I got up when we were watching that point. I had gotten up to, I think, get a glass of water or something, and you know, we didn't need to pause the movie when I walked away because I know it forwards and backwards. But I heard her from the other room go, "Yeep."
Yeah, I for like most of my life have had a very hard time with like people peeling off faces or fake faces. It goes back to a MathNet story in 1986, the trial of George Franklin, and this guy, and oh my god, I was terrified, and like,
oh no,
right, so like that just squicked me right out.
Yeah. And had I known that, I would have stayed with you and waited a little bit for my sip of water.
But, I'm an adult. It's
but
okay.
no, it was neat because it was practical. Because as 1985 Doc, Christopher Lloyd in the first movie was wearing age makeup, so he could use his regular face as 1950s Doc. And then when this one came around and Christopher Lloyd's character was going to be more featured and be one of the leads, they gave him that bit in the beginning to say, like, oh, I had an all-natural overhaul and I put on this disguise so you would still recognize me, but here's my regular face. And so he didn't have to wear the prosthetics for the entire movie.
Brilliant.
He could just act with his own face and be Doc. And they just gave him the wig and they gave him eyebrows, and that was his new Doc face. And I appreciate it because, you know, Christopher Lloyd, I mean, so much of his acting is in his face and just crazy things he does with his eyes and his expressions, and I'm there for it. I'm living.
Great Scott.
nice. Yeah, it was a fun idea, and it's not so far off of the future that we are living in now with all these things that are available for skincare.
Chemical peels.
Also, him being a male, I love that he just did that. And maybe in that future, it's allowed for men to have skincare regimens and take part in a little vanity, you know?
Yeah. Shall we get into the plot here?
Let's.
Courtesy of Wikipedia.org.
Before we do,
Yes.
we forgot one of the most crucial cast members that I just happened to see. Elijah Wood as Video Game Boy number 2. I was like, oh my god! And then we had to look it up. And if you have a device, whoever's listening to this, just do yourself a favor. Google Elijah Wood Video Game Boy, and there's a side-by-side of Elijah Wood's character as he looks now. It's so good. I lost my mind. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look at him.
It's pretty amazing.
Baby.
He came on screen and I was like, is that Elijah Wood? So then later when I was like, is that Flea?
No other 80s child had those eyes. Those, like, piercing
That's
into
so
your
good.
soul eyes. Like, in The Good
Made
Sons,
it.
for some reason, they cast him as the good one, rather than, like, the kid with the satanic gaze that pierces your very being.
Well, right, because he had the satanic gaze that subverted your very being, and Macaulay Culkin, you know, you couldn't subvert anything if you made Elijah Wood be the mean one.
Right. I wonder if the kid who plays the other video game kid is ever jealous of, like, you know...
Yeah, feeling a little salty.
You know, we both did exactly the same thing in this movie, but that guy gets to go be Frodo.
Who was the kid who played the other video game kid?
I don't know, but he's probably like
Exactly.
signing autographs at some truck show or something. But he's
Anyways, sorry, I digress.
No, but
No,
that was a valid digression.
I'm surprised he's not on the Wikipedia page.
And we also didn't mention someone else who's listed in the cast, Freddy as Einstein.
Yes, that's right. And
And Billy Zane is one of the henchmen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, we saw him again, and that whole gang, and they look ridiculous and amazing in the future as freaking
and
like
the
Stetson
different-
wearing.
Yeah.
So if I may have mentioned in the first in 201 that I have a series of dogs that I illustrate, and they are all dogs that have survived disasters in pop culture. And so Einstein is definitely one on my list that I have not done yet, like previous ones being Toto. Looking up Freddy from Back to the Future 2 and seeing that he is not Tiger from the first Back to the Future. So it's actually a different dog, because in the passage of 4 years, that dog was then deemed too old to act in the second one. And that was just so like, oh, my heart.
Well, I mean, we're talking about,
But yes,
28 dog years?
Yeah, but Tiger was forced into dog retirement.
Yes. Yes,
It was.
I'm sure Tiger was enjoying a well-deserved retirement.
And a farm upstate,
yes.
I'm sure.
And I
Put out the
appreciate so
pasture.
much the concern that Marty has in the DeLorean, saying, well, what about Jennifer? What about Einstein? And you know, they have to make sure the whole audience knows that the dog and the girlfriend are going to be
They're
fine.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Not that they care. They literally just leave Jennifer lying around wherever.
Yeah, I mean,
boxes.
No regard.
Jennifer, you just leave her lying around, like, you know, like when you set your drink down somewhere and forget about it. And,
But do you have to put your Jennifer on a coaster?
yes.
Yeah.
And one of the funny details is
Hey, you
that
put the coaster on Jennifer. Yeah.
yeah. One of the funny details is when they're in that alley full of trash and they're like, put Jennifer over here, they put her on top of a bale of breast implants that have been thrown away
Oh,
in
do
this
they
alley.
really? Oh my god.
I did what?
I missed
And
that
they're next to
detail.
like a bale of laser discs that have just been tied up and have been left in an alley, which was funnier in 1989 because laser discs were still like amazing luxury items, and
Oh, wow.
you know, now they're basically garbage. Yeah, so that's one thing they did get right. At least she was thrown in the garbage on top of comfortable stuff, I guess.
Bouncy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Plot
Plot.
from Wikipedia's article for Back to the Future, Part 2. And if anyone has anything, just jump in and interrupt. On October 26, 1985, Dr. Emmett Brown arrives in the DeLorean time machine and persuades Marty McFly and his girlfriend Jennifer Parker to travel to the future with him and help their future children, with Biff Tannen witnessing their departure.
Marty did get a night's sleep in between the first and the second movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
You
Gabe
would
was
think,
very
like-
concerned about his level of rest.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff happens at the Twin Pines Mall at like 1:30 a.m. And so, like, when he finally gets back and Doc drops him off again, like, it's got to be sometime at like silly o'clock in the morning, and he sneaks back into his
Yeah.
house.
Like this
And,
poor kid.
And then he's woken up in the morning very sleepy by his clock radio, and his brother's like, did you sleep in your clothes last night? And
He's at least gotten a couple hours rest.
yeah, so he's gotten
Yeah.
some manner of sleep
Nice
between his week in 1955 and the next day. So they arrive on October 21st, 2015, where Doc electronically incapacitates Jennifer and leaves her asleep in an alley, explaining that she should not have too much knowledge of future events. They could. I'm sure. Like, I like this movie. I like the screenwriters and everything, but I'm sure they could have written like an actual part for Jennifer in this stuff, rather than just let's knock her out and then have her be a plot device again later.
It seemed pretty convenient.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could have, but that would require character development on the part of a female character, and they don't do that.
What are you talking about? Lorraine gets boobs.
I mean, no, I'm sorry. It would require character development, like, full stop, basically, which is also not really the goal here.
Yes.
We call that
Feelings.
character overdevelopment. Yeah.
Hey.
Also, apparently the police force is mainly women in.
I did
2015.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes.
The two patrolling officers that find Jennifer are like these badass females. I'm like, okay,
That's very true.
Mm-hmm. With like scrolling LED marquees on their police hats, which in case
and
you want to
commenting on how great she looks at 47.
Yeah.
I mean, moderately reassuring for someone heading into their 40s pretty soon, I have to say.
Yeah. He has Marty pose as his own son and look-alike Marty Jr. to refuse an offer to participate in a robbery with Biff's grandson Griff, thus saving both of Marty's children from prison.
Okay, I have a question first. What do we think the center generation was? What was the name of the intervening Tannen generation? So there's Biff, and there's Griff. Who was in the middle?
Spliff.
Miff Tannen? I mean, I'm actually very curious about this.
Riff.
Tiff.
Tiff Tannen. It could be a daughter.
Right. I mean,
It
there's...
could be, yeah.
But
Ziff
I am
Davis
wondering
Tannen,
if, like, they kept the convention.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anyone who's like multi-generational rhyming names going on, because I don't know any psychopathic sociopaths, but
That you know of.
that I know of. But you see why they did it for the audience's
Oh, no, I get it.
edification.
And, you know, also if you
course.
needed to get...
Thomas Wilson.
if you needed to get his attention on set, you could just yell, if. And that would pretty much cover it.
So Marty switches places with Marty Jr. and refuses Griff's offer, but Griff goads Marty into a fight, and a subsequent hoverboard chase ensues.
So, I'm sorry, am I forgetting something from the first one about calling Marty chicken?
You are not. Because
So this just
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
this film pulled it out of its ass. All of a sudden, Marty gets triggered by being called chicken. Which, I guess, if you look back at the first movie, he doesn't get called chicken in it, so maybe you could like retcon it into thinking like, okay, he had this twitch, it just didn't get activated during that adventure. But yeah, it totally comes out of nowhere, so they can have something to prompt Marty to screw up and like cause plot developments and necessities.
But, like, they're just...
Now, I was only 4 at the time, but was chicken like a new insult in 1989? And maybe they're just like, yeah, let's throw that in, because it's cool.
It wasn't like an actual thing to call people chicken, and like it just means what it means now. It's calling him a chicken, but like it wasn't an actual offensive term. But I guess like they weren't willing to cross too many lines in this movie and have them call him something really terrible or offensive.
Well, I mean, that's true on the one hand. On the other hand, though, here's an interesting thought. This is... I'm just coming up with it now. I'm spitballing.
Okay.
George McFly clearly spent his entire youth being called chicken, being mocked for being weak. That he probably instilled in his children that the worst thing you can be called is chicken. And so that's what... and don't forget, Marty had just been watching his dad getting called a chicken on a regular basis in 1955. So that might have flipped the switch for him.
That's an interesting kind of
I
fan
like
theory you
that.
got going on there.
Yeah, I like that actor motivation and like the familial kind of guidance that maybe George McFly was able to guide his children that way. Basically at the writer's table I was just thinking like, how can we get this kid Marty to ignore the gravity of what his mentor and the obviously like guiding smart one who knows everything character. How can we get Marty to ignore all of that? Like, what would be strong enough to get him to forget the plan, to divert from the plan, and to just... And it has to be something all throughout. Like, I lost track of how many times. What was it, like 3 or 4?
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to have something, a weakness for this superhero Marty to,
It is
I don't
true.
know.
And it's a very universal thing, right? Because they could say chicken...
It's a
and I
universal
can't-
film.
They could say chicken in 1955 and have it fit. And they could say chicken in 1985 and have it fit. And they could say chicken in 2015 and have it fit. As opposed to, like, what, tranks and gearheads and whatever the hell they said? I don't even know.
Yeah, the future slang was kind of amazing.
The future slang that they said twice and was like, we're not going to pursue this. But, you know, kids are going to be calling each other chicken till the end of time.
This is true. That's an interesting insight into this.
Oh, that was the other thing I was thinking. The whole feeling of this movie to me, especially the 1985 and 1955 earlier part, was that it was almost like a midrash on the first film. Right? Midrash, the exegetical process by which you look very closely at text and then try to fill in the gaps, figure out what happened in the blank spots. And that, you know, reinterpret it and keep looking at it and look for new answers. And this really seemed to me in a lot of ways like an exegetical gloss on the first movie. I'm not saying I liked it, but I'm saying exegetical gloss.
You're a rabbi's kid.
A little bit.
Big words, fancy. We not smart.
That's interesting though. I've also seen a fan theory advanced because among the Back to the Future fandom, like, it's kind of agreed that the nobody calls me chicken thing is kind of bullshit how it comes out of nowhere. But I remember reading some fan theory somewhere, maybe on Reddit, where someone was like, but remember that Marty just, like, changed the past and now his father is all confident and his family is all happy and healthy. And so maybe when they raised Marty as, like, more together people, Marty ended up with this whole differently built sense of self-confidence and self-worth. And so now Marty, having changed the past, has made his own upbringing cause him to suddenly have this lifelong aversion to being called chicken, if you follow the time mechanics of it.
Okay, so are we to infer that from the, 45 minutes of experience of his new parents, that has completely reconfigured his entire lived experience of, 17 years to that moment?
Yeah, there's also been much hay made about the fact that Marty, he basically, it's a nice gag and everything how he walks in, and I might have mentioned this in the 201 episode, but he walks into his own home and, like, everything's different and his family's different, his siblings are, like, more confident and everything, but that also means that he basically has no idea what anything that has happened in his family's life is in this new version of reality. So, like, he now has to, like, fake his way through, like, when somebody says, oh, you remember when this thing happened? And he doesn't, but, like, now he has to play along like he does.
Yeah,
think of all the common references that you have with, like, your family members and your siblings and your parents, and, like, imagine none of it being the same thing anymore. And that would drive anyone nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of nuts, what if it's just like a glitch? What if chicken was some trigger of a life lesson that George McFly was instilling in his children, but something with Marty's state of knowing everything in the space-time continuum in the timeline that they've created had created some sort of glitch trigger in his brain. And so,
yes.
I don't know, it makes him do things and get angry. I don't know why I'm angry, but I'm angry.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
It'll make me do anything because I'm a frustrated teenager.
It's kind of amazing. The moral and spiritual and psychological implications of time travel and screwing with your own past. Science fiction.
Science fiction.
Gotta love it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. It's not a requirement for you.
Yeah, they actually passed the law last year that said you have to love it. Yeah.
Right.
I think time travel is illegal too, but yeah. That's why you put a radar detector on your DeLorean. So. Before rejoining Doc, Marty purchases an almanac containing the results of major sporting events from 1950 to 2000. Doc discovers it and warns Marty about attempting to profit from time travel. Now, here's a bit where, even as a kid who loves this movie and loved it from first sight, this is where Doc is a major hypocrite, because he did just drag Marty out of 1985 to come do something that helps his own family, but now, since he wants to take a sports almanac back, all of a sudden he's like, no, I didn't invent a time machine for financial gain. You know, I'm Mr. Social Conscience now, and I can't allow you to do that.
You just reminded me. I had a moment in the film where I don't even know how to say it, but basically, it's pointless. Why would they go to the future to change something and then go back to the past only for the future to come up upon them again? Like, why not just tell Marty, hey, by the way, this is going to happen in the future?
Well, because then the movie would be over.
You might want to take care of that when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. But
Back to the Future 2 would have been like 10 minutes
wait
of
a second.
him coming. So, okay, write this shit down. On October 21st, 2015, just take your son and go play baseball or something. Just don't let him go off wandering into a robbery. I love the character of Doc. This is where he's contradicting his own morality here. But it's okay. He's a mad scientist, and he's nuts.
Well, it did seem like he explained it a little bit, where he said, I looked at everything, and you can imagine it's like 2015 at that point, that day, and beyond. But I would like to think that Doc looked backwards and forwards and said it all goes to this event. It all starts at this event. What he says. And so I'm hoping, I mean, that's my suspension of disbelief, that, like, he really did look at everything, and no matter what could be done in the past, would still not have changed this thing. Like, maybe Marty Jr. just would have finagled every which way to try to meet up with Biff, or Biff would have found Marty Jr. But Griff, I'm sorry, yes. And then Doc found the simplest, as a scientist, deduced that this moment really is pivotal, and that if you do change this date, then, I have faith in Doc.
Yes.
Doc. Hey.
Well said.
Trying.
Before Doc can adequately dispose of the almanac, they are interrupted by the police, who have found Jennifer incapacitated and are taking her to her 2015 home. They pursue, as does the elderly Biff, who has overheard their conversation and picks up the discarded almanac.
Which, I'm sorry, if you're trying to throw away something you don't want anyone to find, why are you going to, leave it on top of a full garbage can?
Well, he's rushing to go save Jennifer, and also, he doesn't know that anybody else knows about the time machine, so he's just, in the future, it was old garbage in an antique store already, so it's just old garbage. It's not dangerous to leave around unless somebody time travels with it.
Fair. Okay.
Biff overhearing the whole thing. I mean, I loved the hoverboard chase, which this totally glosses over. It was one thing this film did really well, was the callbacks to the original, I think. But, just giving them a little twist. And so, you got the callback to the skateboard chase in the 50s, with this hoverboard chase.
Yes.
It works well. He steals it from a little girl, which is why he's running around with this, bright pink, hoverboard for the rest of the movie.
It was a Mattel hoverboard. She had, the Mattel handlebars.
Yeah.
Older Biff says there's something really familiar about all this. And I love that, because he's watching the whole thing unfold.
And
but he can't quite put his
and
old
you can picture,
finger on it.
if he's remembering something that happened 60 years earlier for him, then and he doesn't give a crap anyway, and he just calls everyone buttheads.
Yes.
Character
it's
trait.
The stuff that, they say, right? The stuff that works in all three timelines. Chicken, butthead, slacker, very universal.
Yeah.
Trank.
Tranks, Lobos, and Zip Heads.
How has there not been some kind of Back to the Future tribute orchestra called Tranks, Lobos, and Zip Heads?
I think you need to start that now.
Wow.
I feel like that's...
And they only play Johnny B. Good.
Yeah,
but, it's they do it really well.
Yeah.
Just
it's all white kids playing rock and roll.
Yeah.
So we take that away from them. Thank you again, John Mulaney.
Well, I was also going to add, being kind of an animation nerd, if you have seen The Incredibles, it reminded me of The Incredibles because Dash has this scene where he's running across water, he's avoiding the bad guys, and in a moment of clarity just goes, oh, and he stops, and then he sinks back down into the water because what is it going to do to hurt you? And Gabe watching the hoverboard chase was like, why doesn't he just go into the water? It's like, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. Very good. Yes. Like, yeah.
Jennifer wakes up in her 2015 home and hides from the McFly family. She overhears that her future self's life with Marty is not what she expected due to his involvement in an automobile accident. Dun dun dun. She witnesses Marty being goaded by his coworker, Douglas Needles, into a shady business deal, resulting in Marty's firing.
By every fax machine in the house.
Yeah. That's one of the things. It's funny to
fax
look
machines?
at the things this movie gets wrong.
What are you guys talking about? We have fax machines all over the place.
Yeah, there's one in the bathroom, there's one in the... And when you get a fax, it prints on everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Yeah, and Jennifer going, I get married in the chapel of love.
That was the only stuff that like Elizabeth Shue got to actually do, is like be horrified and disappointed and scared and hide from the family.
Oh no, first she got to be excited. I get to see my wedding dress, I get to see my house, I get to see our children.
Oh yes. Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being the teen girl of,
that's a good point.
And then she's disappointed by all of it. And not much of a character arc. Is she in Back to the Future 3?
Spoilers.
You'll just have to wait to find out.
Also, like, if somebody whose name is Needles is trying to goad you into a shady business deal of some sort, it's like, dude, your name is Needles. How am I going to trust you with anything? But you know, but like his character name of Douglas Needles was less intimidating than his real name of Flea.
So there was an episode of the show Roundhouse, which is on Nickelodeon, and it was a variety show, and it was wonderful, and I loved everything about it. And there was one episode, I don't remember what the overarching theme of it was, but there was this girl who kept, like, doodling her name with celebrity names. So she was like, you know, like, Mr. and Mrs. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jennifer and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Schwarzeneggers. And she does this repeatedly throughout the episode, and finally she goes, Flea.
Oh no.
Jennifer and Flea. Flea. Mr. and Mrs. Flea. The Fleas. And I was like, this is magical. And that is what I think
The
of.
Fleas.
And like, I'm assuming that was just like, he had a book come out recently, and I'm assuming that's what most of it says. The Flea.
He did.
The Flea.
Jennifer and Flea.
Him imagining.
Flea.
I mean, I'm the last one to I'm the last one to criticize anyone for being named after an insect.
Oh, Rob T. Firefly.
That's me.
Oh, I thought you were named after a spaceship.
I had it first. Joss Whedon came out with that show, and I'd already been using the name for many, many years. And then everyone was like, "Oh, you must like that show," and I'd never watched it.
Yeah, so when we first started talking...
Wait, what's your Firefly, Rob? What's your Firefly?
Yeah, so when we first started talking, I said...
Well, maybe we'll have you on our podcast, and then we can just watch Firefly, and you can tell us
Firefly on
what you
Firefly.
think.
Yeah.
No, when we first started talking, I said, wait, is that a Marx Brothers reference? And he said, yes, and now we're married. So...
It was... It was like, what, the third sentence you said to me or something?
Yeah.
Messaging on on the
Wow.
app on which we met. Yes.
Wow. Ours was a Bob's Burgers where, if not for that line in his dating profile, that he nerds out and, is a fat kid at heart and eats everything and likes cartoons, and Bob's Burgers is my jam. I was
Awesome.
like, swipe,
Done and done.
done. We're gonna eat everything and watch all the cartoons.
I know how to get him.
Well, and it worked. You guys are an adorable couple.
Well done, you guys.
Good job.
Nah. Same. The
you
Marx
too.
Brothers and Bob's Burgers. Bringing
There's
couples
cosmic significance
together.
there to be found, I'm sure. So,
Well, what I was going to say about the whole flea thing, so I am old enough to have played a board game called Party Mania, and it came with a VHS tape that you play alongside, and you play and stop it according to where you are in the game. And the whole goal is to get to this wicked party or this super cool party, and things keep stopping you, like adults or homework or the bully or something. But it reminded me, the video conferencing between
Needles.
what's his name? Needles and Marty McFly is like starting and stopping the VHS to see what the character says now. Because that conversation in real time was a little off. I don't know if it was just being aware of the fact that they couldn't video conference back in 1989. 89? Yes. So yeah, it reminded me of Party Mania because you would basically move your token, get a card, and it's like, okay, press play. And then you press play, and then this, nerd shows up at your front door with flowers and goes, "I'm your date to the party." And you go, "No!" And then you press pause, and then the next clip is meant to be like set up for the next person who grabs the unfortunate date card or something. And it was just like, wow, this video conference is amazing.
That is,
they're reacting to something that's not quite,
heavy.
Anyhow.
There were a bunch of video cassette board games like that came out.
Well, there was also this little clip in Jurassic Park that I caught watching it for the millionth time, where he's talking to the guy on the dock saying, like, when, you gotta wait, you gotta keep the boat there so I can get, the dinosaur eggs and get over to you. Nidri is, like, trying to get over, and you can see the play bar on the video clip on the computer screen, where it's scrolling through the set amount of time this video lasts for that they clipped out and put on the desktop, and it's like, this isn't a video conference.
Yeah, very obviously like a 1994 or 93 or whenever that was, QuickTime video.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Yes. So that was fun just to watch and be like, ha ha ha, we know it's not a live
video. It's like this movie where they used computers to make dinosaurs look real, and it was amazing, and it won awards for its effects. And it's like they couldn't magic up a little computer screen thing for him to be talking to. It's like that's where they screwed up.
Yes,
devil's in the details.
Oh my gosh,
that's a classic.
Yeah.
But or what they call a revealing mistake. If you're on IMDb, because it reveals like the behind the scenes stuff they're doing. It's like seeing the wires on a toy spaceship, in Star Trek or something.
Got it.
Or like when you can like when the DeLorean at the end of the first movie and beginning of the second one, it backs up all the way toward the camera when they're ready to go to the future. And you can see the license plate, which is the shiny chrome-looking thing with like a barcode on it. And in that barcode, if you look hard, you can see the camera crew filming the thing in a reflection.
Nice.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. That's so cool.
Oh, Gabe is the continuity king.
I've been refraining, actually. And it's, who's to say that all the doors in the house are the same? But the front door has no doorknob. Whereas when Jennifer's in the house hiding, there's some scene, and I don't know if they're in the kitchen or in the living room or something, but there's a door with just an old-fashioned doorknob. It's right there. I'm like, why wouldn't all the doors just be like future doors? Why does this door have a doorknob?
Security.
Yeah. Or he'll be like, that napkin was on the left, not the right, 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, why isn't their future house all like Star Trek doors?
Yeah.
Every house needs blast doors in 2015
I'm sure.
and beyond.
I mean, we're getting there now, but just a little late.
Yeah.
Okay. Jennifer tries to escape the house, but faints after she encounters her 2015 self. Which is I love the little double take they both do, and then the young one screams, "I'm old," and the old one screams, "I'm young," and they both just faint in unison. I like that bit.
It's pretty great.
While Marty and Doc attend to her, Biff steals the time machine and uses it to travel to 1955 and give the almanac to his younger self, then returns to 2015. They never get around to explaining how a dumbass like Biff could suddenly know how to operate the time machine.
Yeah.
Thank you. How?
Well, it's 2015. Everybody knows how to, drive a flying car and whatever, and, I know how to do that. That was in basic 2015 driver's ed.
Yeah. I mean, Biff is a car guy. That's established. He's got, his own car rigged so no one can start it but him in the 50s. And he's got, an auto detailing business in the good version of the 80s. So, and also in 2015 because he's a cranky old guy who's being put to work by his grandson to wax his car.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the belief being that he's a mechanically smart dude.
Mechanically smart, but also dumb. Which, people like that exist.
How... Is there a fuel level gauge in the DeLorean of what Mr. Fusion is turning the trash into? Is there... hey, this fuel is... gone. They
don't show it. They show the gauges in the first movie. They show the gauge that says the plutonium chamber is empty, which rings with this little alarm when Marty is in the 50s and the car won't go, and it's because there's no plutonium. But they never show what the inside looks like after the car gets its future hacks applied, and so there's no way of knowing if there's some gauge in there for the Mr. Fusion, or if it's also not obvious how you can make the car fly and how you're piloting it up and down as well as left and right with a steering wheel.
And I suppose there's also aren't there issues with something's clinky with the time coordinates and it's not working correctly?
Well, yeah, the time circuits are shown glitching out to January 1st, 1885 every now and then, and Doc just bangs on it to
Right. How did Biff not wind up in 1885?
Yeah. Well, that happens later, and I think it might be a result of when Biff smacked it into a bunch of stuff when he was driving it away. But yeah, and then that's Chekhov's glitch because at the end he ends up spoiler for the end of this film that we're going to spoil the hell out of, but he ends up in 1885. All right.
Yeah, Biff's cane being in the shape of a fist,
yeah,
so that he can still knock on people's heads.
That's a good touch. I like that.
They also don't explain. He's just so wrecked after he returns. He's so
very out of breath. Yeah,
and he looks like he was just beaten to hell.
The thing that there is a deleted scene that explains this. That apparently test audiences didn't get it. But what happens is, how when Marty screwed up his own family's past and ended up never being born, and so he starts fading away, and looks at his hand in front of himself and it's fading. In the original version of that scene, Biff comes back, and then he's not at all well, and then he stumbles off into the road, and he fades away. The idea being that when he changes his own past so that evil 1985 happens, where Biff is rich and powerful and basically Trump, the screenwriters have since said that the original idea was that when old Biff comes back, he fades away because it turned out in that version of reality, Lorraine had at some point had enough of Biff's shit and shot him. So then he dies before he gets to be old Biff, and there's a paradox, and so he fades out.
Yeah.
So, you thought the movie was getting grim already with
I
what
did.
we're about to come up
I
on
just
here.
kept saying, things look grim for our intrepid heroes.
But in the test audiences, they didn't get why old Biff just faded away.
That was a bridge too far.
It was a bridge too far. So instead, the implication is that he breaks the cane and hits himself with it and is just in pain, and stumbles off and is never seen again, but doesn't magically fade out from time travel wibbliness. So now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Yeah. Marty, Doc, and an unconscious Jennifer return to 1985 unaware of Biff's actions. The 1985 they return to has changed dramatically. Biff has used the almanac to become one of the wealthiest and most corrupt men in America, changed Hill Valley into a chaotic dystopia, secretly killed Marty's father, George, in 1973, forced Marty's mother, Lorraine, to marry him, and had Doc committed to an insane asylum.
Okay, so one of the things I enjoy was the fact that the town square set
Yes.
just keeps changing. And it was the courthouse mall, and the burn was still in the clock tower, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and I remember in the first iteration of 1985 that I remember very distinctly there being like an adult theater in the town square.
Yeah.
So when we saw the first wide shot of Biff's
Yes.
Pleasure Palace, I did not immediately assume that it was a casino.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the point.
Ah.
But it
Totally
was the
fair.
clock tower. Yeah.
Totally fair.
And Fred.
Yeah.
Fred was there. And he wasn't alone. Now he had a whole homeless community.
And that was
Yeah.
one of the callbacks that, like, in the first movie, his one line is crazy drunk drivers. And so now he gets bumped into and goes, crazy drunk pedestrian. Which, okay, that's
Yeah.
a bit of a stretch, but, rule of funny. I think it works. But yeah, Hill Valley is Hell Valley, and everything is terrible.
I mean, so we know that the house that Marty thought was his in the alternate 1985 was not. Do we think the porch they left Jennifer on was, in fact, her family's home?
Right.
Yeah.
And did they not see the dilapidation and destruction?
And they don't show, like, in the movie, they don't show whatever Jennifer is going through, since she's probably woken up on her swing by now, and all of a sudden everything is dystopian and horrible, and she's a pretty young woman left out in the same town as all these gun-toting bikers and everything, and she's got to be going through some like terrible fanfic-worthy shit.
I mean, how do we know she didn't get caught in, like, gang member crossfire?
Well, that's the 2020 remake.
But that's one thing that they do point out when they leave to go to 1955 again and fix things, is like when they go and fix things, since Jennifer and Einstein are not the time travelers making the changes, then they won't know and they won't remember the bad version.
So did we
and they'll just come back and be in the
a
good version
girl
again.
and a dog? Are we saying that, like,
Yeah.
the protagonist's girlfriend and the dog are on the same, like, mental level of understanding?
Oh, I think that's exactly what we're saying, and
They're the innocence
Yeah.
of the film.
but yeah. So whatever Jennifer is going through in the dark dimension will be erased by them fixing things, so that she has that going for her, which is nice.
Yeah, right.
I mean, also nice to see people of color in Back to the Future, even if just for a moment.
Yeah, well, starting with Goldie Wilson III, who is now doing hover conversions on cars
Yes.
that are being advertised on a talking billboard. Imagine living near a
That's
talking
right.
billboard.
Which aren't so far off. Yeah. From Times Square and things like that.
But yeah, what you were saying about the courthouse set, I love how they keep the familiar things and just keep tweaking them for these movies. Like the way they use the Universal backlot. I think they made really good use of everything they had on that backlot. It deserves a little extra props there, not sets, props. Wait, no prop. Wait, anyway.
Hey, wait a second.
Anyway. Props.
Props.
Marty and Doc deduce that the 2015 Biff took the time machine to change 1985, and Marty learns from the alternate 1985 Biff that he got the almanac on November 12th, 1955, which is my negative 22nd birthday.
Yes.
Yes, November 12th is my birthday, so I've always taken pride in the fact that Back to the Future has that as one of its fulcrum dates.
The Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Biff tries to kill Marty, but Marty flees and travels to 1955 with Doc, leaving Jennifer on her own front porch. So we assume.
I mean, that was a while ago. But and I did enjoy that, like, all the ifs have their own little three little groupies.
Yeah, they're gangs.
They're
They're gangs of three.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the way they did they brought back the 1950s gang as the evil Biff 1980s gang because they would have just stuck with him instead of going on to whatever destinies they had
or whatever else.
And so Billy Zane and the other two guys, what's their names? Anyway,
Yeah. The other guys.
yeah, just done
Billy
up
Zane
to
and
look
the other
older.
two.
And Marty secretly follows the 1955 Biff and watches him receive the almanac from his 2015 self.
I love the split, like the old Biff and the young Biff, and I love how the filmmakers did it with the split of the car window. It was, I mean, now you can see it, and it's like kind of shaky and it's obvious, but I just love how they did that so much. It tickled me so much.
They made great use of that. Like there was that scene. There was when the McFly family in the future is having dinner. You can now if I stare, knowing how the effects were done, I can see where it fades from one chunk to the other, and they move the mats around.
Wait, Gila has to say it.
Am I matted into this shot?
Yes,
Yes.
friend Brill, you are.
Didn't miss a beat.
We only said it 7 or 8 times while we were watching it.
Yeah, and now you can see it, but like they also like, and there's a turn of phrase that Zemeckis used on the behind the scenes featurette when they're talking about the special effects that in particular to make the DeLorean fly, and he's like, yeah, we use this kind of special effect, we use that kind of special effect, we use every kind of special effect known to man to make the DeLorean fly. And yeah, they this was Industrial Light and Magic, and they were pushing their own boundaries like for this movie so hard, and it is beautiful. And now I can see the splits in the screen, but as a kid, even though I knew what was going on, it was still just like amazing. And like the two Biffs in the car, although I will ruin that scene for you, when old Biff and young Biff are in the car and there's the split down the middle, the one glaring mistake there is that there's no rear view mirror in the car during that sequence. It's just like the line splitting the two halves of the windshield.
Yeah, just a split.
But there's no rear view. But in the other scenes, that car has a rear view mirror. I guess it was just too complex for them to like cut around the mirror.
It sure does.
When they were doing things, they needed the straight line.
Maybe it was because old Biff was changing his past, and you don't need a rear view mirror if you're changing what's behind you.
Mind blown.
But yeah, but it was a great scene, and I love how they did it, and I love that. Doc talks about how there could be all kinds of disastrous consequences if someone meets their future self, worried about when it's going to happen to Jennifer, like what's going to happen. And when it happens to Biff, it just doesn't matter because young Biff is too stupid to realize that it's an older version of himself there. He's just his sheer buttheadedness is what saves the universe from paradox right there. And because when he's explaining to Marty what happened, he's like, this crazy old codger with a cane shows up, says he's my distant relative. I don't see any resemblance.
Still, but when we're talking, like, that whole thing about you can't see your future or your past self or it'll just, like, blow up everything. The thing I thought was very interesting was when, 1985 Doc, who was trying to fix the DeLorean, was talking to future Doc.
1955.
1955. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah, 1955 Doc getting everything ready for the clock tower lightning bolt.
Right. But then he's talking to 2015, the other Doc.
He's talking to 80s Doc, yeah.
He's talking to 80s Doc. And, like, if you're a time traveler, I can't imagine that you would be terribly surprised by seeing another iteration of yourself. Like, I feel like the one person who could safely talk to another iteration of themselves would, in fact, be Doc Brown.
But then... But you could assume that about Doc, but like Doc, especially 50s Doc, is kind of nuts, and we see his reaction at the end, skipping ahead. When Marty shows up again after he just sent Marty back to the future, and Doc is just so, no, it can't be you. I just sent you back to the future, and he ends up just like fainting because that shock is too much for him. Even though he knows how it all works, he's still a shrinking violet. Marty secretly follows the 1955 Biff and watches him receive the almanac from his 2015 self. Marty then follows him to the high school dance, being careful to avoid interrupting the events from his previous visit. And I love the whole explanation. When Marty and Doc first arrive back in 1955 again, they park the car behind the Lion Estates billboard, which is a lovely touch. The same place they hid the car in the first movie. And then Doc has this whole speech where he's warning Marty against bumping into his other self. He goes, there are now 2 of me here, and there are 2 of you here. The other me is the Dr. Emmett Brown from 1955. The other me that helps the other you get back to 1985. And he's just running up and down the road for no reason while he's demonstrating this, and just in full on like the Docness of Doc was turned up to 11 there. I just love that so much.
Yeah, we also that was when Gabe was concerned about Marty's sleep. And rest,
Yeah.
Because Marty says, "Man, it feels like I was just here, yesterday," and it's like, "Yeah, you were, like, technically."
Yeah, it's great stuff.
The darkness of Doc.
The darkness of Doc. But yeah, also Marty has been awake for an entire day because when they first arrive, Marty wakes up in the morning in 1985, gets quickly whisked away while admiring his truck to the future when it's dark out. And they're driving around in the dark. It's nighttime. And then when they park in the future, it's just morning. It's daytime. And then they go through stuff. It's daytime. And then by the time they're done in the future and they go back to get Jennifer and everything, it's nighttime again. So Marty's just been through that entire day. Has he eaten anything?
Yeah.
Neither of them
poor
have, like...
kid.
Yeah. And do they have, like, granola bars in the glove box? Or...
Yeah, or is he just...
Yeah. But then after that happens and Marty's back in the hell version of 1985, then the only rest he gets is when Biff's goons knock him over the head and he's
Right.
unconscious.
Super
So
restful.
you get I guess
For
extra
a whole
rest.
2 hours.
Yeah. But rest counts for more when you're unconscious, right? It's like super healthy for you. After several fruitless attempts, Marty finally gets the almanac, leaving Biff to crash into a manure truck. And I love how this movie goes back into the events of the first movie. I thought that was really cool at the time. Like, I don't think that had been done before in, like, other time travel stuff. Like, you would have time travel anthology stuff like Time Tunnel or Quantum Leap or whatever, where they would just be somewhere completely different every time. But the fact that they could make a time travel movie and then in the sequel go back into the first movie again and show things from a different angle and like re-jeopardize those things that were already solved. I thought that was a cool twist. That was a cool way to use time travel.
So Biff's car got filled with manure twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Love it.
Yes.
Yeah. And
What a shitty thing to have happened.
Oh wow!
During before that scene, if I may, before that scene, I remember on episode 201 we had talked about the DeLorean a bit. I love that they referenced how just flimsy of a car it was. There's a quote where Marty McFly said, "There he is, Doc. Let's land on him. We'll cripple his car." And Doc's like, "Marty, he's in a 46 Ford. We're in a DeLorean. He'll rip through us like we're tinfoil." Like, that just had me in stitches. Like, oh my gosh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah, there's a company, I forget which one it is, if it's Hot Wheels or Matchbox or what, but they licensed the DeLorean. They made a couple of versions of the Back to the Future DeLorean, and then they made Biff's car, which you can get a little model of Biff's car, and there is a rubber pile of manure that you can stick on top of it to make the manure covered version of Biff's car.
That's so good.
I forget if I mentioned this in the first in the Back to the Future 1 episode.
No, you did not.
But you can actually get this, and I don't have one yet. I want to get it, but you can actually get a little Matchbox sized version of the manure covered car.
That's amazing.
And that always, like, what fascinates me about that is, like, okay, they made a little version of the 46 Ford, which, okay, they make versions of cars, but then somebody at this toy company got the job of, like, okay, now sculpt a mound of shit that fits right on top. And I think they either gave that to their best guy or their worst guy to sculpt.
That's so good.
Putting that on your resume, though? Matchbox car shit detail?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, I worked on a major film license merchandise.
Oh, what was your project?
I did the poo sculpture.
Oh, for Dogma?
I made a pile of shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. No, really.
Literally,
It was a
yeah.
pile of shit. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god, perfect. Yes.
That's funny because I got to spend a lot of time with sculptors for this Dungeons and Dragons company that I was working for, and we had to make miniature everything. And it was fun to see where they would sculpt little piles of rubble or stone or, you know, just a dirt mound that sits next to a tree because miniature people collect everything. And they could quite literally sculpt a pile of dirt with a couple pieces of stone embedded, and that would sell for, like, you know, $15 in a particular, you know, replicatable resin piece or something. You know, it was fun to see people sculpt little bits of dirt and earth out of dirt and earth to be sold, you know, to people who collected those miniature types of things, which were really cool, because then we had, like, you know, miniature anything is awesome and fun, because I got to play a giant and just take all these pictures with, you know, a whole turkey dinner that fits in my hand, or
Excellent.
I got to hold a whole bar on my hand complete with, you know,
A little, like, menu or something,
loaves
right?
of bread, and yeah.
Excellent.
But never shit.
Well, you got a future, yeah. You've got a future at Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
There's still time. You're a young sculptor yet. The whole chase through the tunnel with Marty and Biff, the hoverboard and 46 Ford chase, I thought that was nicely done. And that tunnel is a tunnel in Griffith Park, Los Angeles, near Griffith Park Observatory, which you're familiar with if you've seen Rebel Without a Cause, or if you've read The Disaster Artist. And
Oh, is it the Roger Rabbit one,
yep,
too?
that's the other thing Zemeckis used it for. It's the tunnel to Toontown, but just, you know, with more tunes
my gosh.
around it. But it's the same tunnel. And so, yeah, that's a nice little Easter egg type thing to look for if you're a Roger Rabbit / Back to the Future fan.
Both, yes, very much so.
I was
awesome.
I went to Los Angeles once and got to go through that tunnel, and it was pretty cool.
Nice,
Like, there was so much I didn't enjoy about that trip, but I liked the trip through the Back to the Future tunnel.
I lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. I
That's
never went through that tunnel.
But we were going to the observatory.
6 years.
6 years. College and graduate school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is the tunnel I want to see the light at the end of. I've decided.
Yeah, and they used all kind of filming tricks to make it look like a long tunnel. Really, it's really short. One of the things they did was a forced perspective, where there are lights along the sides of the tunnel, and they basically put the lights closer together the further away they get, in like a Disney World sort of forced perspective thing, so it looks like a longer tunnel stretching off into the distance, and just kept filming in the same bit of it, which you know, snazzy little bit of effects
smart.
work.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the end here. So Marty burns the almanac, reversing Biff's changes to the timeline as Doc hovers above in the time machine.
Okay, I do love that. Like, the effect when the newspapers change and the matchbox changed.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, these movies have that way of, like, it's like the photograph in the original one of his brother and sister, where you track the changes to the timeline you're making by these little pieces of the future that you take with you. I also like how the news story for that day, like, still involves the same people. Like, you know, when George McFly is murdered, he's front page news, but then, like, when he's not murdered anymore, it's George McFly honored because they happen to give him an award on that day and use the same picture of him.
Yeah.
And it's like Doc
Brown
you know,
commended.
Yeah, Emmett Brown committed, and he's, like, being pulled away in a straitjacket by a couple of men in white coats, turns to Emmett Brown commended, and, like, they're pretty much, Doc and these two other guys are in the same positions, just, like, shaking hands and handing him something. Like, it's this goofy little touch, and I love it.
Yes.
I love it so very, very much.
And speaking of the devices that they plant all throughout, Biff, when he first sees the DeLorean take off and says, "What the hell is going on?" in '85, running out to show Marty, "Hey, you got to check out these new matchbooks I got, you know, for my business."
Oh, yeah.
And it's for the auto detailing. Marty was in the car, so he wouldn't have heard that. But to take from this to the dystopian 85 that matchbook, now that he knows that things change, and that becoming the same exact matchbook that Biff was trying to show in the beginning, okay, all right,
It's a nice little
plant.
Yeah. And the fact that those are the matches he burns the almanac with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Although we did have some concern for Biff and his mental health for the rest of his life because he sees a flying car and who's going to believe him? And that doesn't get erased, does it?
No, I guess I guess not.
Find out next time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But and the fact that it's the same matchbook that he gets for his Pleasure Paradise as he gets for his auto detailing. It's just the different words on the back.
Yeah, I mean, some things about this guy never change, fundamentally.
Yeah.
Maybe there's only one matchbook maker in Hill Valley.
Also very true.
Yeah.
Yes. Before Marty can join him, Doc's hovering in the time machine. Before Marty can join him, the DeLorean is struck by lightning and disappears. And a Western Union courier immediately arrives and delivers a 70-year-old letter to Marty.
Okay, hooray for Joe Flaherty is
Joe
all
Flaherty,
I have to say.
Who plays the Western Union courier, known to us as...
Such a great voice.
Yeah. He's got a great voice, and he is also... he was one of the main cast members of Second City TV. He was in that group with like Rick Moranis and John Candy and Martin Short
And Dave Thomas and Catherine
Harold
O'Hara
Ramis,
and Andrea Martin.
Yeah, the whole
Eugene Levy.
Yeah, Eugene Levy.
Oh.
He was also known as Count Floyd.
Yes.
One of his running gags on Second City TV, which was, for those unfamiliar, it was a sketch show that was supposed to be a fictional, goofy TV station somewhere, like with public access level weirdness going on, and so the sketches would be bits of the shows. I wonder where I've heard that idea before.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea.
No idea.
No.
Where such things would happen on the Modern Technology Podcast Network.
No
but anyway,
idea.
Modern Technology Breaks episode 2 coming out soon. Anyway, one of the sketches on this show, the recurring sketches, was Count Floyd, who was basically like a goof on the horror-themed kids show hosts that they had back then, with like Vampira and all these like vampire-looking people or Frankenstein-y type things going on. And he was
Sven Gulli.
Yeah, Sven Gulli was one of them, and Count Floyd was basically like this completely hapless, guy dressed as a vampire, and there were these rows of kids, like when they did it as a sketch later on the Ed Grimley cartoon, and there were these rows of kids that were just like not having it, whatever he was trying to get them to be entertained by, and it was great. Anyway, Joe Flaherty's awesome.
Joe Flaherty was also one of the bad guys in Follow That Bird.
Yes, in Sesame Street's Follow That Bird. Him and Dave Thomas.
Him and Dave Thomas, yeah.
The
bluebird of happiness. Like, you could hear it in that Joe Flaherty voice.
Yeah. But yeah, he is great. So yeah, a Western Union courier immediately arrives and delivers a 70-year-old letter to Marty. It is from Doc, who explains that lightning strike transported him back to 1885.
I have a question.
Yes.
How was he able to read it? It's pouring down rain. It's a 70-year-old piece of paper. Did the ink not run? Did the paper not disintegrate? Why did Joe Flaherty let him under his umbrella? Like, how was he able to read a 70-year-old letter in the dark in the rain?
He was reading it in front of the car's headlight. And I'll tell you what, Doc knew what the weather was like when he left, so he knew that it would be raining on Marty and maybe did something scientific to the paper.
Oh,
wow.
How do you like that, smart guy?
Not a 1885 Sharpie.
Yeah.
1885 Sharpie.
Well, when do you think Sharpie was invented?
Yes.
Exactly.
He invented the Sharpie to use it on that.
Well, when you put it that way, I don't know.
But it's I love the device of just like sending a letter to the future, and a lot of other time travel fiction since this has used that trope of like if you're stuck in the past, just send a letter to your future self or whatever, or your future pals who can come back and help you. And I don't know if it was done before this. I don't know if this was maybe the first to do that. I mean, in Back to the Future 1, Marty gives 50s Doc the letter about how he's going to be shot by terrorists.
But in person.
And yeah. I like the touch that, a bunch of us back at Western Union had a bet going as to whether this Marty would be here. Looks like I lost.
At that exact moment. Oh, it's so good. Oh, Happy Gilmore. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I know his heckling voice.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Happy Gilmore.
Yes.
Yeah, jackass. Yeah.
That's the one. Marty races back into town to find the 1955 Doc, who had just helped the original Marty return to 1985. Illustrated by a little bit of the same footage from the first movie of the whole thing succeeding. Shocked by Marty's sudden reappearance, Doc faints.
In the most cartoon way.
Yeah. He just falling back on the street, legs flopped up.
Half spinning around. Yes. Oh, we didn't talk about Doc talking to Doc.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Doc is trying to find Marty after Marty's in the back of his car going to the dance, Doc's riding a bicycle through town, happens upon the 50s Doc getting everything ready for the clock tower. Then he gets distracted because he's on the walkie-talkie with Marty talking, and then hears this voice from behind him. "Excuse me, sir, you with the hat. Be a pal and pass me a 5/8" wrench out of that toolbox." And, 80s Doc is horrified. But then he's like, 5/8? Don't you mean 3/4? and like he's trying to like change his own voice so he doesn't recognize himself. I love that scene.
And it's like, so then, cross-eyed again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would the measurement have been fixed in the past in the first one by some mysterious stranger who happened to correct him and say 3/4 instead of 5/8?
Yeah. Or maybe in the original history, Doc just like screwed with the wrong wrench for a bit and went, "Oh no, I need to put this back and get the right one."
Yeah.
So he saved him.
Okay.
He saved him like 2 minutes of frustration. We just put this office chair together for Gila. I was having trouble with the Allen wrench that came with it. It kept flying off into the into the corner of the apartment. It's a bit like that.
Yes. All of the Allen wrenches.
Oh no!
Yes.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, so Doc faints, to be concluded. As Marty's trying to wake him up, and the camera, crane shot, stretches off, and then you get a little teaser of some Western movie type action. And Back to the Future 3 is coming soon. So, I'll ask you, the Dork Web dorks, first. How was revisiting Back to the Future 2 for you two?
It for me, not great, to be honest. By the time it was halfway through, I was kind of done with it. But I don't have fond memories of it as a child because, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, my fondest memory was of the Micro Machine set, which is still a great memory. But it just seemed to drag on for me. It just seemed to keep going, and then we're still going. Oh, we're still going. And that's not to say that there weren't great moments, because there were certainly great moments. Some of the best, I think, were at the end of the film, actually. But that was personally, I think it kind of drug.
I enjoyed it. I really haven't seen the second one as much as the first and the third. Not nearly even like 5% as much as I've seen the first. But yeah, it was fun to see. Again, we talked about the theatricalness of the acting and the writing, and just, I think we talked about how it is kind of a family movie. You know that kids are going to see it, and there are the good guys and the bad guys, and that's very clear. And it felt like it's definitely a sequel in a trilogy series. Like, you have to explain to the people who haven't obsessed over the first one. You have to make it a new movie and a self-contained film at the same time, trying to please the fans who already know everything that you're about to say. So I get how that's difficult. I enjoy it just as in carrying on the series. I don't think it stands alone as a film that I would just watch over and over again, but as a part of the trilogy, I think it's great. And they did what they could, and they did a fun job with it. It wasn't some like life-changing thing, but it was entertaining and a fun way for them to explore like practical effects.
The effects were amazing.
Yeah.
I love the effects for sure.
And of course, Industrial Light and Magic, like my whole heart. So to see their mix of practical effects and just like all the props and fun little tiny details that add up to world building, even, you know, the leash that walks the dog by itself, you know, all these things that they thought about just to make this world believable of like consumerism in the future. You know, oh, of course there's, you know, people get lazy and they don't want to walk their dog. But I enjoyed the little what's the word, product placement of, you got Pepsi, Pizza Hut, USA Today, what else was there?
Texaco.
Nike, obviously.
Nike,
which Dexco, yes. So it's fun. I enjoy it, and I don't think I would watch it over and over again, but I might build it up to the whole I can watch it and throw it on while I clean kind of thing, and then maybe that heart would build up just like the first one. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys walk away with?
I think I agree with Jen a lot. I think the world building of it was really, really well done. I liked all the visual effects that they did and the ways that they really, you know, both the through lines and the differentiations between the various time periods. With that said, so visually I liked it. From a technical level, I liked it. From like a story and writing and acting perspective, not so much. But it's also, you know, it's a bridge. It's very much a bridge, I think. And, you know, we'll have to see how number 3 goes. I'm glad I shared the experience of seeing it with you. I'm glad we had the experience of talking it out together. But, how did this movie make $330 million in 1989? How?
What?
Because it was a highly hyped sequel to one of the most successful blockbuster movies of the 80s.
Well, when you put it that way.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean,
because Ghostbusters 2 came out the same summer.
Yeah, it did. Ghostbusters 3 didn't come out the year
There's
after
some
that.
old
No, it
news
did
here.
not.
Yes.
No, it did not. I mean, Ghostbusters came out the year before Back to the Future. I'm just saying.
This is true. But I could see what you're saying about this not being really one that stands alone as much. Although I used to watch it by itself, like especially when I had this one on video and didn't have 3 yet. When I revisit Back to the Future over the years, usually it's just all in a row, and so 1, 2, and 3, like, and you know, maybe I've seen 3 the least just because like sometimes you don't have time to watch like 300 and something minute movies in a row. Sometimes you have a, you know, like a life or something you've got to be dealing with. Though I hadn't always. But I do love this movie. I love the world building. It's one of those ones like Blade Runner, but different to Blade Runner. But like just in sheer terms of production design, like it's a love letter to the idea of production design. Like you can mute the movie and just look at stuff in the background the whole time, and pick out details. Like you know, even in like Evil 1985, and you look at the other stuff in the Biff Museum, and he's like shaking hands with Nixon and in photographs and things like that. And like
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe. And yeah, just but like and the future stuff, you know, perhaps more so. Just all the little touches, the you know, like the drone walking the dog for you, and like just all these little, like, why are these people riding exercise bikes in the Cafe 80s? No one knows, but it's funny and it's going on in the background, and it just adds visual interest and action to the scene. And just like through sheer rule of weird, it manages to work. Back to the Future, especially when you've seen the whole trilogy and you can take the whole thing as like a big unit and a big like commonly built world between the 3 with all these different eras to it and stuff. Like it really all gels together really well, and it's nice seeing like when they go back in Evil 1985 and you see like the Lion Estates stone lions, you know, where Marty would be living if that were his house. And they're graffitied because it's the hell version, and you know, but like you're going back and seeing like familiar surroundings with an unfamiliar tinge, and it's this movie is just really good with that. I love the story. I love the ideas, and I really like this movie.
Oh, there was the Jaws tagline. Now it's really, really personal.
Yeah, Jaws 19
up on the marquee.
Yes.
This time it's really, really, really.
And one detail.
Yes.
One detail about that is Jaws 19 is directed by Max Spielberg, who is one of Spielberg's kids.
Nice.
Okay, I'm having a thought.
Yes.
So the Jaws that came out of the marquee, the cartoon Jaws.
The hologram Jaws, yeah.
Yeah. Is that where they got the design for, like, the backup dancer sharks when Katy Perry did the Super Bowl halftime show? Like, you remember Left Shark? That's what Left Shark looked like.
Yeah.
Was that Jaws?
Yes, it was Left
Yeah,
Shark.
it's just goofy, sort of wonky looking cartoon shark.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
The exact blue. It really is.
You may have something there. And yeah, there were some very 80s jokes here that don't really age well, like Marty going, "Oh, the shark still looks fake" after that bit, because Jaws was known, especially in the 80s, for having a bunch of unnecessary, endless sequels, and also for the shark looking fake, and yeah, just stuff like that. What was another one?
You mean apart from the Ayatollah coming in to interrupt Ronald Reagan in Cafe 80s?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the fact that they
Oh
were all basically these Max Headroom versions of Michael Jackson and Ronald Reagan and the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because, of course, if you have little AIs running your Cafe 80s, they're just going to be like glitchy Max Headroom style heads in boxes. I love it. And the stuff they had on the menu in the Cafe 80s, mesquite grilled sushi Cajun style.
I'm sorry, that was completely involuntary.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, that's what Michael Jackson is. He's advertising the mesquite grilled sushi Cajun style, or no, the Reagan one rather, not the Michael Jackson one, but the Reagan one pushes that, and then the Ayatollah's like, "You must try the hostage special," and yeah, ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it wasn't quite as insensitive as maybe the Libyans in the Ferris movie, but still a little dig at the Iranians.
Yeah, there's this weird thing with 80s movies, and I guess all films or fiction that imagine Japan will take over at some point. Like Die Hard has Nakatomi Plaza, and like all the higher ups, the boss is Japanese in Marty's boss, and he knows Konnichiwa, and I assume he also speaks a little more Japanese than that, which is interesting.
And also Marty's two ties that he's wearing, because people in the future wear two neckties, and the ones Marty's wearing make the Japanese rising sun design.
Oh, that's right.
Which is interesting. Also, another goofy little bit of trivia was he says to his boss, "Fujitsu-san, konnichiwa." So his boss is Mr. Fujitsu, which... unlike other company names, Fujitsu is not a Japanese name. Like, it's an abbreviation of, like, I think 3 other words. And so, basically, they didn't know that when they wrote the script, and so it's kind of the equivalent of, like, somebody saying, "Oh, Mr. General Motors." Like, it's like purely a company name, but they just gave him that name.
Oh, that's so funny.
The Japanese boss in this movie is also a bit of an insensitive, maybe portrayal of someone of a certain ethnicity. Let me explain to you, my Asian friend, what I mean by this. Let me white-splain how this movie is making fun of Asians.
What are you talking about? It sounds just like my dad.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, they went. They did go for the easy joke of, like, he calls him McFry,
yes,
like with the heavy accent.
Yes, I mean I'm a big Better Off Dead fan, and the Japanese exchange students, or just students in general, just crack me up because of how they learn English, and just very funny. I laugh. I don't know.
It goofily reminds me of this. If you ever saw the movie Jane Austen's Mafia, which was a spoof of, like, the Godfather type movies, and all the mob movies.
With Leslie Nielsen.
With not with Leslie
yes.
Nielsen, but Lloyd Bridges was in it.
No, it was some other guy. Yeah.
And what's his name? The from Saturday Night Live, Jay Moore was the star.
Ah.
Whoa.
But one thing they show is like they show the Italian immigrant child holding a book that says English with an Italian accent. And then he starts speaking English with an Italian accent. Like,
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that movie.
Did you guys not have one of those at your house?
absolutely. But yeah, so that was Back to the Future 2.
That was Back to the Future Part 2.
And are you excited, Gila, to revisit Back to the Future 3 with the rest of us?
Woo.
I will say to you, it's not much of a spoiler, but I will say to you, it's very different.
Okay. Because my favorite time period is the Old West.
Oh, everyone's favorite. But
Oh, it definitely was after we saw the teaser. Gabe came out of... He was like, I'll be right back. And he came out of the bedroom, and he held up 2 DVDs, and he's like, which one? And it was Tombstone or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Because, it wasn't 2 in the morning when we finished Back to the Future 2. No, but we did watch Tombstone, which I love, and I was like, let's just please skip over the horrible beginning, which
Legit.
traumatizes me. But, yeah, we could just watch Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday forever. Like, he's just...
So if he's not in Back to the Future 3, I'm going to be really disappointed.
I don't know if there's any Huckleberry content in this to be, but
More Huckleberries, please.
we will get back together for Back to the Future Part 3 at some future date.
Or episode 201, part
Looking
3.
forward to
For
it.
episode 201, Part 3, Part 1 and 2.
Yes.
Yes.
2 plus 1 equals 3.
That's also like
Yes,
the
to
naming
be
convention of
concluded.
these, where it's like, I mean, it's informally, you could say Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3, but like they're actually Back to the Future Part 2. Like they spell it out in the
Yes.
in the
In a little bar, yes.
yeah. It's Back to the Future Part Roman numeral 2 and Back to the Future Part Roman numeral 3. But yes, so we will be back for Back to the Future Part Roman numeral 3. Thank you, the Dork Web, for joining us, and you got some stuff going on right now that you didn't have when last we spoke.
Finally. Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
Oh, and that's all the time we have for,
I kid.
No, yes.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us back.
having us,
We love doing
yeah.
it. It's such an honor.
I've certainly listened to the first one, and again and again. Because of this social distancing, I'm just trying to hang out with my friends, even when they don't know it. So,
Yes.
doing my dishes and helping me clean my apartment. No, we've been keeping busy, and as you guys know, we're both in the hospitality industry, so it's a really beautiful time for the industry to be kind of coming together along with the city itself that we all live in. So yeah, we've just been kind of taking part in a little fundraiser that we started to try to keep everyone going like another week, because not everyone has the luxury of applying or filing for unemployment because they may or may not be undocumented. So that's been keeping us busy, but it's also leading to a lot of connections that we otherwise would not have made.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a cool time for the creative and the hospitality community to, not with so much pressure to be productive, but to kind of make use of the time with what energy we have and to try to have some good come out of that. And yeah, maybe we were all meant to connect this way in this time, and nothing's really pushed back as far as passion projects. They're just kind of diverted a little bit. Oh, into an alternate future.
The timeline has skewed into this tangent.
But the Rona tangent, yes. The pandemic paradise. What is it? Pleasure
pandemic
paradise.
I love it.
The easy way. Yes.
So where can folks find out about the good stuff you've got going on, such as this fundraiser?
Primarily on our Instagram at the Dork Web, all one word. And yes, we're keeping up the GoFundMe link in our bio, and that's us.
We'll put links to all that in the show notes for this episode. So if you're listening right now, you can flick over to that. And
yes, and did we hear some allusion to modern technology?
Yes.
The sketch comedy
Modern Technology Breaks,
Episode 2.
Which which is a sketch comedy series that I started a year ago and put out one episode of, and it kind of I hadn't really been inspired to go back to it, but I've been opening it back up during some stretches of lockdown here.
I do wonder how the crazy crew at Modern Technology Breaks headquarters is weathering the pandemic.
Yeah, I'm sure they're having a great time, and we will.
Yeah, have you guys been paying rent this whole time?
But I cannot give any kind of definite timeline about that. But at some point, it is not a dead project. It is still being fiddled with a little bit. You can still check out episode 1 at modern.technology/breaks.
Yeah, as I so lovingly reviewed, your podcast always has something new for movies I thought I've seen and known inside and out, and yeah, so thank you guys for what you do.
Well, thank you for joining us, and you are so much fun to go through this stuff with.
It is so true, and it's just such a blast working with you guys.
Yeah. So we will be back. We will do some more modern technology watches with us, and we will work out a time sometime in the future to go back to the future once again for a final time with you, Jen and Gabe from the Dork Web. So,
whoa, this is heavy.
Great Scott. For modern technology watches, this has been Rob Vincent,
Gila Drazen,
and we'll see you in the future.
I can't even say it.
No, you gotta say it.
We'll see you at the movies.
This counts. This counts as seeing you at the movies. There was movies we were seeing.
They were movies. Yes. We'll see you at the movies.
It's a home theater. God damn it.
We could do a Netflix watch party.
We're doing what we can. You've been listening to episode 203 of Modern Technology Watches with Gila Drazen, Rob Vincent, and special guests Jen Sujin Yoon and Gabe Williams of the Dork Web. Go to modern.technology on the web for more info on this show, our other work, and our social media tangents. Our music is The Promise by Torley Wong, released Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. Find more from Torley at torley.com. Thank you, Torley. Content from wikipedia.org is used under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. This podcast is released under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0, produced by modern.technology. Send us email at watches@modern.technology, and if you like us, tell someone. It was fascinating, though, and...
Okay, if you hear grunting, it's our pet dog, who sounds like we own a pet pig, but... And if there's a bell in the background that you hear, it's because he was trained to ring a bell when he wants to go outside, but really it trained us to take him out whenever he wants to go outside.
Do you need a pause? Or can you...
I know. Yeah. Oh, no,
okay.
He's
no,
fine.
I took him out right before this.
Yeah,
he just wants to go outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
He's adorable. I'm sorry, listeners, that you can't see this adorable dog on webcam.
Who's waving at us now?